Hey, what's up, everybody? Bitcoin is starting to pump. It's almost up 4%, which is pretty good. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to look at this structure here and we're going to compare it to the previous structure. I did put a video out yesterday. It was a members video. If you want to become a member, you can just simply click join where you see the subscribe button. Just click join. And yeah, so you can, it's only, I think it's like $3.99 a month. So I'm trying to give over the top amount of value for what you get. You know, I'm not gonna, charge a crazy amount like I see some people. So, but just to make it a little bit more unique and a little bit more special, and especially diving into the strategies and things like that. So yesterday's member video was originally not going to be a members video, but it ended up being so because I felt like, man, this is really good. So I'm going to share some of that because Theta is really like what I talked about yesterday. It was, things are, I would say, a lot different because the macro count, number one, is different. And number two, there's a massive macro buy signal. And I'm going to jump into that on the Theta chart. So if you're a Theta hardcore hodler like myself, or even if you hate Theta, it doesn't matter. Like if Theta is giving this signal, by the way, this signal has only happened 2 other times in Theta's history. And both times led to massive explosive rallies. So it's very important. But again, it's all contingent on Bitcoin, right? It's all dependent on Bitcoin showing up to the party, right? So right now I'm liking what I'm seeing here. I did tell you that this is probably going to come down. As we were in here, we popped the top, we come down, we kind of curl up a little bit and hit the low. That's exactly what the Fractal did in the previous structure. So let me pull that up. Okay, so here we go. And basically comparing it to the C19 crash. And by the way, I see a lot of people sharing, comparing this structure here. And when I was, and I don't like to say this, but I feel like I have to say it. But when we were crashing here, when we were in the middle of the crash, and especially at the bottom, and especially recovering, you can go back and watch the video to make sure, I was right then and there saying this looks a lot like C19, the way it came up, the way it came down, and here it is right here. Here's the chart. I mean, you can see we were right in the middle of the dump, and I'm like, this looks really much like C19. Right, you had this sort of wane down, you come back up, right, hit the bottom here, kind of have this little flat base, right, and then we spike the top, and then bam, lights out. Spike the top, bam, lights out. And so anyways, the reason I'm saying that is because I see a lot of other people now starting to share that. I'm not saying they copied me, because I would imagine most people don't know that my channel even exists. But I'm saying, for the people who have at least 50 to 100, maybe even higher than that, 150,000 subscribers or whatever, like these top crypto analysts, they're comparing it. And I like that. I like the fact that they see what I see, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all on the same team here, okay? So whenever we see confluence in charts, it's important to share that, and regardless if someone saw it first or whatever. But at the end of the day, I see ideas that I never saw before, and I utilize those ideas in my own analysis because I thought, oh, you know what, I never looked at it that way. But anyways, just wanted to explain that. And the reason why I showed this was because when we were in the middle of this crash, what was I saying? Please don't sell, don't sell, don't sell. I can't give financial advice. This is not financial advice, but I'm basically saying do not sell. Why? Because usually when you have all of this support, right? And then you have this big crash to the downside and it slices it like it wasn't even there. Then usually what that means is, again, it was a crypto stock market / margin call situation. It wasn't crypto related, but even if it was crypto related, usually the price comes back to the point where it broke out of. Just like you can see here, it came back. Now this instance, we actually broke to the upside, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen this time. Right now we're right here, right? This is an old chart, by the way, obviously. So right now we're actually right here. So we could still come down, right? But at least you didn't sell, at 53,000, right? We're a lot higher now. So now people can decide, do I want to hold on and risk it, or do I want to sell it? And in the member video, and not the one I just put out, but I think a little bit in the one I just put out, but more so moving forward, I'm going to explain how I would play this situation here, right? Because this is really do or die. If we're going to go down, it's going to take probably 6 to 8 months to recover. And a lot of people don't want to hold through all that. So a lot of people would like to get out. But how do you know for sure? Because the last thing you want to do is sell it and you feel like, okay, it's going down, and then bam, it goes right back up, right? That's why it's important to be a hodler, right? And just kind of ignore that. But for those who, you shouldn't be swinging your whole profile in the first place. You should be, if you want to get out, maybe put a short, right? If you feel like, so, a lot of the things I'm going to talk about in the members video, but let me just explain a little bit here so people can understand. So if I have, let's say I have a $5,000 or $10,000 portfolio, and I'm very proud of that. I built it up for a long time. Okay, I'm not gonna, and if I feel like it came back up, right, and you can see that's exactly what it did, right? You're not gonna want to sell your whole portfolio just because you think it's going to go down. I mean, you can chance it, you can risk it, but that's a big risk, letting go of your whole stash, right? So a lot of people, they might sell 15, 20%, just a little bit here, because what's the main idea? The main idea has always been that, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're still going to get wave 5. Or the other idea is that this whole thing over here was the bull market, so a rise, we have a crash, this is a retracement, now we're going to go into reaccumulation between 30 and 40K, reaccumulate, right, and then go sideways and then blast off. But then that means you would have to hold through all of that, and a lot of people don't want to do that, right? So there's a strategy on how to play it, and there's different ways you can play it, right? So for example, one guy might be like, you know what, I'm just gonna hodl and I don't care what happens, but how do I capitalize on the price if it does come to the downside? By the way, I don't think it's gonna do that. I'm still very bullish. I'm just saying, you don't know what's gonna happen, because we're in election year, stock market fiasco, recession, war. I think Ukraine invaded Russia. I mean, there's so many things, right? So you don't know what things the deep state has up their sleeves that can cause sort of this black swan event, right? The chart from a technical perspective looks bullish, but that doesn't mean it's 100% going to do what you think it is, right? So we have to have a contingency plan. And that contingency plan means hyper-focused on what's happening right here, because this is the point. This is the do or die point. We're either going to go or crash. This is it right here. There's no other alternative. There's really not, right? So that's why I think, you should, if you haven't subscribed, you should definitely do so, and because this is very important right here. And I don't say that lightly. I think this is, this is a big moment for Bitcoin here. And right now, so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing. But, you know, we have a bullish daily engulfing candle. It looks really good. I go down to the 4-hour candle. And again, there's a couple different ways you can play it, right? So for me, like let's say I'm a hodler, right? And I'm not going to sell, even if it does come down. So, but how do I capitalize on it? Well, if this starts to come up and then we get rejected quickly, right? Or we come back underneath, we come back and we get rejected here, right? This would probably be a point where you would enter a short, especially if we break this low, right? I probably, you know, there's different ways you can play it with different risk measures, and we'll deep dive into those in another video. But you know, when we come up here, and we, you know, it could be a sweep and go, or it could be a rejection and then continue down. And likely, if we break this low, we're gonna keep going down. I mean, it's it. That's over. We have to go into reaccumulation, because now it's most likely not a fourth wave. The fourth wave is too big. It has too many waves, right? Most of correction is a 3-wave correction. This happens to be a triple combo correction, right? You know, W, X, Y, which is a normal correction, but then we got X and then we got Z, right? So there's nothing after Z, at least not in the American alphabet, right? There's nothing after Z. So it's pretty much out. It's pretty much a reversal. Then it would be a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and we're gonna tank, right? So your hodl bag, your investment bag, would take a hit unless you put on, you know, again, not financial advice, but people can sell maybe 10-15% just to cover their bases a little bit, or maybe even enter a short, right? I would probably, like if I had, you know, a $10,000 portfolio, I might consider letting go 10-15% of that and then put that into a short position. That way I'm not totally getting hurt in the meantime, right? So anyway, there's a lot of different things you can do to sort of mitigate your risk and capitalize on the next move. Most people, they don't want to deal with that stress because they've probably been there before. And I totally agree. It is definitely a lot more stress when you have to worry about when to get in, when to get out, right? Things like that, because you just don't really know until it actually happens. So, for me, I'm just gonna wait and see. I'm not doing anything right now. If anything, I'm accumulating, right? So, all right, let's move on here. I think I said enough about that. So let's talk about what's happening as far as this move goes. So this was a screenshot from yesterday, talking about the member video, and this also was a screenshot from yesterday as well. So you can see we're right in that middle of that dump there. And you know, now let's look at it. Okay, so we have both of them side by side on the screen here. You can see that was C19, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of look at both of them and see what's going on, because from a fractal perspective, I mean, it's really spot on. It's really spot on. Here's a screenshot. It's not my chart, but it's a screenshot here, and this basically showcases, you know, every single little move in here, right? So it looks really good. And we crashed down, we came back to the spot here, just like how we crashed down, we came back to the spot. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at this area here and this area here and see if there's any more confluence we can go after. And then we're gonna jump into the grand finale, which is Theta. Because again, originally, yesterday's video was not supposed to be a members video, but I decided, you know what, let me just get something out there. But more so the members videos is going to be more like, again, early access to certain ideas, and then also more deep diving into the nitty gritty strategy stuff. So if you like that kind of stuff, again, click join. So right here we have the dump. Obviously we have the dump, and then what the price actually ended up doing it's a little bit different as far as how it went up. So actually I'm gonna zoom in to the 1 hour chart because it's actually a lot smaller than the previous correction. I think this correction was about 150 days from the peak we had in March. I believe it was March, and this one lasted a lot longer. Okay, so let's get into it. So right here we have this 1, 2, 3. We have a 3-wave move to the upside. We have this 3-wave pullback, and then we had a hit to the high. Similar to what happened here, we have this 3-wave move, we have this 3-wave pullback, and then we had this retracement. Now this, you could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You could say that. So again, I wish this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what I think is going on is this move here was maybe a B wave. And you can say, well, it doesn't look like a B wave. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's true. And that's very much true. But where it gets kind of interesting is as we move a little bit further along. So this wave here was only 3. But if you look, let me see if I can zoom in here. And let me zoom in here. If you look, as we come up, you can see we made this little flat top here. Similar to what happened over here. We came up, we made this little flat top. And then what happened? We crashed to the downside, right? And this is where, I think not yesterday's video, but the day before, and even the day before that, we were talking about this. And I think we were right in here. And I said, we're probably going to roll up and we're probably going to hit the low. And that's exactly what happened. We came and we hit the low. So let me take this off the screen real quick and we'll just run through it. So we got this little flat top, right? And same thing here. We got this little flat top here. And we have this move to the downside, this 3-wave move to the downside, boom, 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 3-wave move to the downside. And then here's where it gets interesting. We had this 3-wave move up, right? And I like this one better. Now, to be honest, this one had a lot more velocity. That's why it had more 5 waves, because, it was C19. We had a mega crash. This one wasn't that bad. So the recovery is more exhausted than the recovery over here, right? But still, if you look at the structure of it, it's still very much similar, right? So you can see right here, we had this 3-wave move that came about to this point here. And that's exactly what's happening here. We have this 3-wave move here, back to the top of here. Now, a lot of channels, they kind of basically go over the scope of it, but I like to get more into the nitty-gritty type of stuff like this. I find it fascinating, and when I look at it, it gives me more confidence as an investor. It gives me more conviction as an investor, right? So, if you're one of those people who are like, man, I don't know, should I sell, should I buy? You really got to find some inspiration to why you hold crypto. Because if you think it's hard, then imagine the guys back in 2012, 2010. I remember, I think the Winklevoss twins and a few other people, actually a lot of people, and I heard their stories. And basically, their net worth went up 10, 20, 30, 50, $100 million. But then it crashed all the way down to like $1 million. And they lost, they had these volatile swings, like $50, $60 million swings. And these guys came from pretty much nothing. They're like tech nerds, right? They found Bitcoin kind of cool and they're in it. But they had the conviction to hold through. I would have been sweating bullets, right? Because back then, Bitcoin was not on the map. Fox Business didn't talk. Nobody knew about it, right? It was very, very well. Not too many people knew about it, but it was having these wild price swings. Like, it went from $1 to up to $4, and a lot of people sold it. And then it kind of went back to $2, and then it shot up to $10, and then they FOMO'd back in. It was crazy. I wasn't a part of that. I wasn't lucky enough to get in that early. A lot of people weren't, but I heard a lot of stories about how people's net worth went up drastically and then crashed drastically. So if they can stomach it and they had the conviction back then, surely we can have the conviction now, right? Because again, it's the 9th biggest asset in the world. Bitcoin is, right? And it basically started from nothing. So for those people who are still holding, it's actually quite remarkable how they were able to stomach that. Because again, how did they know Bitcoin wasn't going to go to zero? How do they know the Satoshi character wasn't going to dump on them? How did they know that it was going to be what it is today? Right? Think about it. If you're putting in a few grand and now you're at $20 million, you think most people would have tapped out, and most people did. Most people like, you know what? I made my money. I'm out, and they sold at $10, $15, and then it jumps to $100, and they're like, "What did I just do?" Right? And the people who were continuing to hold through all that, I couldn't imagine waking up every morning looking at my portfolio. You shouldn't do that anyway. That's very unhealthy. But just looking at the price is just crazy, right? You have these massive swings. And to be able to stomach that is actually quite remarkable. So it just goes to show those people, like, you could have been set for life, right? If you got $10, $20 million, I feel like that's set for life. You can do so much with that. Even just $1 million, you can put it to work and live off some of the interest. But anyways, they didn't care. They just kept holding it. And I'm just like, man, I can't believe it. So anyway, kudos to them. They saw the vision, right? Those were the early adopters, right? Those were the early adopters. And they basically look at them today. Right? Bitcoin's at what, $60,000? I imagine they sold a lot during the $20,000 run. But for them to hold on to what they have now, they're freaking how much are the Winklevoss twins worth? I know they're popular, and a lot of other people that were holding it during that time. But anyways, and a lot of those people started their own companies. Like, I think the Coinbase founder was in early. I think the Kraken guy was in early. I know the Binance guy was in early too. So, but anyway, let's move on to the price. And basically the moral of that story, the moral of that rant is to just say, hey, if they can do it, I think we can do it too, right? And to all honesty, it's less risky now than it was back then. Because again, the government could have came in and killed it, right? Because it was so small back then. When I mean kill it, tax it out of existence or whatever. But anyway, let's move on here. So when we look at the structure from this perspective, it's pretty much spot on, right? It's pretty much spot on, okay? So, but when we look at the structure very, very zoomed in, I don't see a lot of people looking at it super, super zoomed in on this structure. That's where it gets even more interesting, right? Because what we want to see is kind of like a little bit of a roundabout, but then a continue to break out, a continue break. If this fractal is going to play again, if it's going to continue to play out, how could we see it playing out? Well, I can see it kind of maybe grinding up a little bit more. I can see it coming back down to about right there. And then I can see it going sideways. And let me move it over a little bit more. So now we're on the 19th. And today's the 16th. So the 19th would be on a Monday. Or no, on a Tuesday. So you can see my little note there. Cancel Spotify. I got the free Spotify and now it ran out. So cancel. So, okay. So now you can see right here, right? We had a little hoop, kind of went sideways here, a little bit sideways. And then this is where I think that the decision, one of the decisions will be made. Because if we continue going down, then it's going to deviate from the fractal. But if we get a pop back to the upside, right? And the cool thing is the reason why a lot of structures don't work out is because a lot of people look at them and then they share it with the world. Then those people share it with other people. And then everybody knows about the fractal. And then everybody trades according to the fractal. And then the fractal doesn't work anymore, right? So the less people can know about what we know, right? About, how the price is acting, right? Then the more probability that fractal will play out. Because if too many people know about that fractal, especially the guys with millions of dollars, they can sort of position themselves according to that, and then it would screw it up because everybody can't be on the same side of the trade. You see what I mean? So we're relying on greed and fear, right? We're relying on that same sort of pattern, right? It's like when you hook up an EKG and you look at someone's heart, the heart beats very similar to somebody else's heart, right? It's kind of like a fractal of it. But if that heart is in a stressful situation, it can definitely change the tune or the frequency. So I would really like to see it come back down, right? We have 3 up. Let's slam back down to the low, maybe Sunday, right? Freak everybody out. It's the weekly close. And then hopefully by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, especially going into Thursday, we want to see this start to break out here. Now, I'm not sure how that would look because, this is where it gets a little bit dicey. Because this wave was only 3, or actually it was 5. And you could say we have 5 here, but I don't really like it. You could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, some kind of diagonal, right? But the retracement is essentially this here. But that's actually the 5th wave here. So it's a little bit different. But this structure right in here is very similar to what's happening now. So we don't want them to be exactly the same because then too many people catch on about it. But if it's similar enough, I can see it playing out here. Especially this part right here where we have a flat top, come down, swoop the low, come down, come back up, swoop the low, right? And yeah, so we want to see it. Let me just put a little drawing on so we can kind of visualize here, because I'm a visual learner. I know most of you are. There we go, something like that. And then what happens after that? Lights out, boom, and then we explode. So that would kind of look like this, I would imagine, something like that. Maybe not that big. There we go, something like that. And then you can see what happened after that. That's a big correction there. I mean, that lasted from May all the way to July. So what, May, June, July, so about 90 days there. This one would be a lot less, but essentially, you know, we kind of coiled in here to a triangle. So something like that, right? And then hopefully a breakout. So now, let's see what it looks like. Let's zoom out to the 4-hour chart. And there we go. That's kind of what it looks like right there. And when I look at this one, let me zoom out a little bit more. You can see by the time we were in this triangle, we were already matched up with this high and this high. And look at this. This triangle, or my drawing, right, is also matched up with this high and this high. I'm trying to get a visual here of what it could look like, right? So, and then we see it actually come down and back. Now, eventually it's going to deviate. It's not going to follow it precisely. I mean, we might deviate as soon as we get to this triangle, right? Meaning the structure is different, but still the path to victory is the same. We go sideways here, and then we just moon launch. And then that's probably the wave that it's probably over with, right? So we would get like, this would be 1 and 2. By the way, if this is a 1 and this is a 2, that means we're going into the third wave, which is going to be pretty big, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gets us up to 80K. Hopefully, we pull back, we back test into wave 4, and then we have 1, 2, mega 3, 4, mega 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that 5-wave move would actually be the end of the 5-wave move of this cycle, right? So then when I zoom out more, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's what we want. That's the main idea. That's exactly what we want to see. Now, if that doesn't happen, then what's the alternative? Well, the alternative has always been, similar to what happened back over here. So instead of us being here, or actually here, we're actually somewhere over here, which would suck, right? Because then we would have to go through all this. And what do I mean by that? Well, again, we have a rise, a crash, a retrace, reaccumulation, we go sideways, and then we blast out. Same thing happened to Amazon, same thing happened to XRP, same thing happens all over the place. It happens a lot. But this one is the same thing, except the retracement took the top out, so it's a flat. Instead of an ABC, it's a flat. Or actually a flat is an ABC, but instead of it being a regular correction, it's a flat. So we have a rise, crash, retrace. We come down into reaccumulation between 30, and I've always thought that, since we never broke this area right here, or since we backtested, this area was so important, that range. When we broke out, we never backtested it, right? So if we did come back down into reaccumulation, look at this between here and between here. There's nothing there. There's no support. It's a straight line up. There's a little bit of a reinforcement there, but not much, right? So if this does roll over, we're probably going between here. Boom, 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 boom. Between 30 and 47K. You can count on it, right? And then, it'd be a rise, crash, retrace. We go down into reaccumulation. We go sideways here, and then we blast off. Now, there's another way the reaccumulation could look, and it could look something like this, where we start to, we're kind of flagging out. We hit the low, we come back up, we start to flag out like this, and then we break out. So it's a little bit more kind of like a flag type, right? And it could be a much bigger, more complex correction. And what would that correction be? Well, if this is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, something like that. So, boom. Or even something like that, right? Now, that's massive speculation, right? I'm not going to jump into that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But anyway, that's enough for Bitcoin. You guys know where I stand. Now, putting the fractal aside, let's just look at it from an Elliott wave perspective, right? Now, this could be some kind of, it could turn into a triangle here. Boom, 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 boom. That would be fine. But we have 3 up, we have 3 down, or actually, we have 3, 3, and then we have 3. So that's a complete correction there. I mean, hopefully, right? Not financial advice. So we have 3, 3, 3. So that's a WXY. So if this is 3, that could be W. And if this is 3, that could be X. And now, hopefully we start up, it could be ABC, or we come up into a Y. But that, if that was the case, it would mean probably more downside. But if we have a big breakout, then it could change sort of the dynamic of what it is, right? Because it could start off as a WXY, but change into maybe like a 1-2, 1-2-1-2, or something like that. But basically, if you could take anything away from this, it's the fact that we have this move up, and now we're flagging out in here. And the flag is corrective, right? 3, 3, and 3. So WXY. And the fractal that we were just looking at, what did it do? It came down, it went sideways, and I think that was it, and it started to break out, something like that. So if I can imagine it happening, it would be something like that, right? So if I put on the retracement from this wave to this wave, we actually hit the 618. So I mean, that could be all we get, right? So again, we're in between the 618 and kind of the 50 here in that golden pocket. So this is, you know, when we were way down here, I said the decision is not going to happen here. We're going to actually come back up, which is exactly what we did. And now the decision is going to happen in here, which it's happening as we speak. So the month of August is definitely going to paint the picture here. So we'll see about that. But anyways, that'll do it for Bitcoin. Now let's move on to XRP. Let's look at XRP real quick, and then we'll get to Theta. So the same thing was going on here with XRP, right? Now if you just look kind of how this dropped down and then we kind of hump over, and now look at this, this is exactly, it's kind of funny, this is exactly what we were talking about when we were over here, right? We're coming up. Now we're kind of making a hump, like a roundabout, and now we're going sideways. So we want it to break out now. That's what we want to see, right? So maybe W, X, Y, X, Z. And now, yeah, see, I don't really like that, but I would say A, and then maybe this turns into a B, and then we come down, maybe it's a flat, and that's a running flat for a C. I think I like something like that. So A, we come up for B, we come down for C, and it's some kind of running flat. Now that's what I would like to see, and it can kind of give that cup and handle look to it. And then it also gives what? Shoulder, head, shoulder, right? And then what's the measured move? Approximately somewhere This is the market cap. Why did I have the market? 50 billion. So we'll just do a percentage. We'll do a percentage from the top here. That's about, 40%. So when we look at XRP and we just say, 40% from the top, that brings us about 90 cents. I could totally see that happening, 90 cents. So just real quick here, that's our chart. And again, when we go to the 2-month chart, look at this, 20 bars, and this is 40 bars. Perfect, right? So actually, this is 39 bars. The next, in 15 days, we're gonna be at that 40 bar mark, which means this is twice as big as this. That doesn't mean the rally is gonna be twice as big. From a dollar perspective, yes, but from a percentage perspective, no. But if you can take away anything from XRP, this is the most bullish candle I've ever seen in XRP for a very long time. This is a massive bullish hammer candle. And it actually got rejected here a lot, and I don't like it as much. But if we can pump up here to, if we can close above right here, 61 cents, then I'll be a happy camper. So we got 2 weeks to do it. We'll see if we can get it done. But as far as the small time frame goes, look at this. Actually, no, I have to go back over here and then show you the fractal. Actually, let me go here. There we go. So essentially, we're kind of comparing it to this. So you see how it has a little roundabout? We go sideways here. It looks like we went up in 3, and then we kind of pulled back in 3. So, if I kind of scrunch this fractal in here, it kind of looks a little bit similar. Now, it's a little bit subjective because one's a 2-day chart. This is like the 3-hour chart, so it's a little bit different. But, I'm trying to get it as best as I can here. So, yeah, I mean, you can see we're, okay, yeah, look at that. We're actually pumping here a little bit. We're pumping here. Maybe we flag out a little bit and then break out. So that would be very, very nice to see. I think it's going to take a little bit longer than the fractal would suggest. Maybe not. We'll see. But usually you want to give it a little bit extra time. Don't have a conceived notion that it's going to happen fast. It might take time. Or this fractal might be invalidated. It might roll over. So just take it with a grain of salt, right? We're just speculating. We're just looking at it. So it doesn't have to be perfect. If any time something doesn't work out or it goes the way you expect it, if it doesn't go the way you expect it, then you just have to be patient, look at it objectively, and just, kind of recalibrate. Yeah, but anyways, the small time frames, it's looking good. So I can't really say anything else. Let me zoom in a little bit more. I like the fact that we have a higher low. We came down what looked like this correction here. We popped the high, and then we came down, hard stop, and then we pumped right back up to this area. So maybe a little bit of a pullback, and hopefully we can break out of here. And it would have done exactly what we thought since back over here. A roundabout, a flat, continue higher. Okay, so that's enough of that. Let's see Now, the reason I started with all that, and hopefully people didn't skip the video, but the reason I started with all that is because I'm laying down the groundwork for what's to come in regards to Theta. So let's go to Theta now. Let's see here, today. So the entire Theta chart has changed for me. And I talked about it in yesterday's video. I'm not going to get too much into it. I'll probably save that a little bit later. But essentially, what we have here has always been what? This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and the idea is to get 5. So I'm thinking now, since this is so long and the way it's moving up now, right? And that's another thing. There's a macro count, there's a short-term count, and then there's also the bullish indicator. Now, the short-term count is going up, 1, 2, 1, 2. But now that I think about it, it's probably going into a diagonal, which means this thing's probably even more bullish than we have thought. Why? Because instead of this being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now it's 1, 2, 1, 2, which means what? Which means we still need that third wave, which basically gives us a lot more time to work with, right? So it's very, very, very bullish if that plays out, and we're not going to know that for quite some time. But yeah, I really like it as a 1, 2, 1, 2. It didn't overlap as much, but the fact that it's going up in this diagonal look, and the fact that it's taking so long, or that it took so long, I've reconsidered my option here, and I'm leaning towards that count. But either way, even if it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's still bullish, right? So a diagonal, we're going to save the best for last, but let me get to this part. This is even really cool. So this is a 1, 2, 1, 2, and let's get another move to the upside. That's the idea, right? But what I'm thinking here is, obviously we came down, we back tested, right? So what this could be is a leading diagonal. So we have an A, B, C, right? And then we have a double zigzag for this 2 wave. So A, B, C. And I won't even label those, but essentially what we want to see now is another A, B, and C, right? And then we move down. Let me just put a fractal here, kind of like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but something like that. And then what do we have? We have another A, B, and C. It's a little bit crazy, but I think it could be some kind of... Now, the way I've drawn it out here, I mean, this goes all the way out to 2026. It's going to happen. It's probably going to happen a lot faster. So don't look at the time down here. I'm just kind of drawing it so we can get a visual of what it looks like. Okay, so just be mindful of that. So what we have is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Something like that. So if I can condense it a little bit, which makes me think, someone said, well, if this goes out even further, then how could that be if Bitcoin's not going into a 5th wave? Well, that's the whole thing. We don't really know, right? So there's always going to be a wild card. There's always going to be something that catches us off guard. Nothing can ever be perfect, especially trying to predict where the price is going to go. So we have 3, come down. We have another 3, come down. We have another 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That probably breaks the top there, right? Then we have an ABC, and then that's where we start that big wave to the upside, right? So it'd probably be kind of like how this was 1, 2, 3. You got same thing, 1, 2, and 3. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, leading diagonal, ABC pullback, and then you have that explosive ending wave. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know how fast it's going to be. I could do a little bit of a time analysis. But even with that, it's still, where'd you go? It's still a little bit, and you could see I kind of ran it up from here. It's not perfect, but it kind of gives you an idea. Somewhere around 2025, not the top, but at least, no, wait a minute. So we're in between the 618 and the 786. So this should be a pivot point here, right? This should be somewhere in here. We should start reversing out of there, right? Now, if I take it from, let's see, from the bottom of this to the top of this, and then back down to the bottom of this, then it kind of gives us an idea of where that next wave should be. And look at that. It's right in that area between October and November and even December. So somewhere up here. So let me get rid of that. And let me extend that up and put that right about there. Actually, yeah, right about there. So somewhere in here, we should get back into this area. And I would even extend it out just to give it a little bit more space. Now, if this is a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, then we're probably going to get a mega third, 4, and then hit the 5. Or if it's a diagonal, we'd get something like that, which would probably take a little bit longer. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But what I really wanted to show you guys is this right here. So if I turn on, and by the way, I didn't even know this was on, right? If I turn on the 2-week chart, look at this. You see that 2-week chart? You see anything? You see it? Look closely. You can't see it because I haven't turned the lights on, but when I do this, wow. Guys, we have officially a 2-week 9 buy on Theta. That is the biggest buy indicator that I've seen in a very, very long time. Now, the last time we had a 9 buy was back here in basically a year ago. And it wasn't a perfected 9. You can see the 7 was actually the bottom. But this is actually a perfected 9. But you can see what happened. We rolled over, we went sideways, and here's the red dots. Once we broke above those red dots, we activated the trade. And we had a green 2 going above a 1, the green 3 going above the 2, breaking above the red dots. We back tested the red dots, and then it led to that big explosive rally. So if we would have bought the 9 somewhere right there, I mean, there you go. You got almost a 400% move. Now, the previous time before that, we had a 9 back over here. Same kind of thing. We basically rolled over a little bit. We hit the high. We had C19, but then it led to a massive, huge rally, right? But here's the cool part. Look where the market topped. It actually topped on a 9 sell. So these are very important. And that gave us, 13,000% right there. But look at that. We actually have a 9 sell on the 2 weeks. So the 2 week definitely has a lot of confluence, especially what I'm seeing right now. So if you can see that, I mean, that's very, very bullish. And I like how the candles one after another. See how it's nice and orderly. That's how you know it's perfected, right? So you have this one going below this one going below this one, kind of flattens out a little bit, and that's to be expected. And then you have the 5 going below the 4, the 6 going below the 5, 7 kind of stabilizes, and then bam, the 8. And then what's really cool is how the 9, the base of the 9 is actually on the bottom of the 8, which tells me it's basing out a little bit here. Now we still have 9 days left for this 2-week candle to end. So as long as it ends somewhere in here, we're good. Now what it's going to do, you see that red dot there. So if that's the red dot and I just place that over here, and then we get candles right here, boom, boom, and then once we break that candle or break that red dot, then it's really activates the trade and we can start to really break to the upside here, right? So that's kind of what I'm expecting, something that looks like that. And now the bigger the base, the higher in space. So if we actually go sideways here, now I don't see how that's possible where Bitcoin is at, but maybe it is if it gets a triangle or something. Again, this is the 2-week chart. So if we get a base down in here where the 9 is, it's going to be huge, because look what happened over here. You see that right there? It gives us the base, right? So if we start going sideways in here and get these dojis, we're going to get a big pump to the upside. We might come back down a little bit and go into a reaccumulation, maybe a little bit, but ultimately I see this thing doing something like that. And now it gets us back into the area we've always targeted since way down here in October. This is where I first started doing Theta video. The reason I started right at the bottom is because I felt things were about to get interesting. And sure enough, it really did get interesting. It's been a very boring over the last several months, but hey, you know, we're in a correction. It is what it is. So, and we're also, so check this out. This is an amazing situation here, because we have Bitcoin in its 4th wave. We have a WXYZ in Bitcoin. It's basically do or die. We also have Theta breaking out in this Wyckoff structure. Also, it's back testing, not to mention it's on a 2-week 9 buy, right? And then also we have what? When we zoom in, what do we have? We have another 9 on the daily here, which is important, but then also we have plenty of waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 waves. If you're into the 7 wave, right? That's a typical how long it crashes, right? It's 7 waves. It's really 5 waves, but you're counting every one of them, including the sub wave, right? So, and then also, right? I talked about Theta versus Bitcoin. We also have bullish daily divergence on Theta versus Bitcoin. And here you go. And it's not a little bit of it's a lot of divergence. Right? Where'd you go? There we go. So look at this. And it's very strong too. I mean, typically when you can see how it's red here, usually it comes back below, but it actually held strong here. So you can see low, higher low. But look at how massive the price went down, right? So this is gearing up for an alt season here, in my opinion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have divergence between the 4th and the 5th. And we're on a 9 buy on the daily on Theta versus Bitcoin. Look at that. So it's basing out right now. Let's let it work. And then plus, again, the 2-week 9 buy. What is Theta Fuel saying? Haven't looked at it in a little bit. By the way, hit that like button. We're going to go over that hour mark. We don't have it on Theta Fuel, but it's okay. We still have a very nice correction here that got us to the back test zone. So Look at that. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a perfect. You couldn't ask for anything better. And I felt, I think I checked it when we were back over here, and I haven't been keeping an eye on it. But yeah, we landed on that thing. And again, it's the 2-week chart, so it doesn't mean it's going to happen today or tomorrow. It could take time, right? I mean, you can see anytime you have a macro buy indicator like the Bitcoin hash ribbon or whatever. I mean, it might not break out until maybe September or even October, right? So we'll see. I would imagine we have 1 candle, 2 candles, 3 candles, maybe on the 4th candle, or even perhaps the next candle. But you kind of want 1 or 2 candles here to consolidate. So we'll see how all of that plays out. If I take a downward resistance line, this is what I would do. And basically, there you go. There's your downward resistance line. And as soon as we break that, I think it's go time. So anyway, there's a few other things I want to touch on, but I'll probably wait to do that here. But yeah, looking at the 2-day chart, you can see this channel has been pretty respected, especially the middle line here. You see resistance, and basically what we need to do is, let me just draw a line from here down to here, right? And then I'll take that off. We don't need that anymore. And then what I'll do is I'll zoom in to the 4-hour, and that's the line right there. So if we can break that line, it's gonna be a very good thing. So we'll see if we can do that. As far as the small time frames goes, I'm gonna touch on that probably a little bit later, but you know, again, we got 3 down, 3 up, or 3 up, 3 down, 3 up, and it looks like 3 here. So 3 and then 3. So once this starts to level out, maybe we might break this low. Hopefully we don't, but I want to see it break above this downward resistance line. So yeah, I would say between now and probably within the next 7 days should be very, very interesting. We'll probably figure out our answer here soon. So we do have deep state events like the war, I think, and who knows what else they're going to try to pull. But if they disrupt things, it could really hurt crypto. So just be aware of that. It's at a very fragile spot here. So it has to break out, or it's not going to be so good. Now, I was saying that this could still be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Always be aware of that. And if it is, let's put the daily on. We want to see bullish divergence here. We really want to see bullish divergence. And it looks like we do a little bit, not really. Let's see if I go up to the 2-day chart here. Yeah, you can see it's pretty well flat in here. So there's not really a lot of divergence, but that's okay. So in other words, if we do come down here, you know, below this low, and then we do have bullish divergence, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's going to be the end of that wave, right? So it would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 5. So A, B, C. So yeah, something like that would make sense. But I don't really think it's going to break the low. Obviously, it could do whatever it wants. But when we looked at our Bitcoin fractal and the other fractal, it actually looked pretty decent. So we'll keep an eye on it. But that'll be it for today. By the way, XRP versus Ethereum, still looking pretty good. You can see on the 2-week chart, we also had a 9 buy, and it did break above the red dots. So, and we did have, I was going to say bullish divergence, but we don't. Look at this. On the 2-week chart, we had a 9 buy, and we had 2 9 buys. We had a little bit of a base here following the 9. We broke the red dots, so it looks pretty good for XRP. So look at Matic. We are also on a 9 buy here on Matic, right? That's a perfected buy right there. So definitely want to see. It's a little bit early to tell, but we definitely want to see a base get formed in here, at least a little bit. Just kind of looking and seeing if there's any other 9s. Look at that on SHIB. Look at SHIB. It's perfect. We have a perfect 9 buy on SHIB. So this is giving confluence to what Theta is doing. So it's not just a one-off. It's an actual 9 on a lot of charts, right? So we had a perfect correction here, and the 9 buy on the 2-week. This is not the daily. This is not a 9 buy on the 4-hour or the daily, or even the weekly. This is the 2-week 9 buy. This is a big deal, right? So yeah, we're right at the back test level on a 9 buy. That's very impressive, and that's very interesting, right? So this is actually the area to be accumulating, right? Not financial advice, but look at CRV. Wow, I wish I saw that. Unfortunately, I got stopped out on my CRV on the other trade, but I should have re-entered. But look at that, man. That's cool. We had a 9 buy, and look at that engulfing candle. It's just ripping to the upside. I wish I could have stayed on it. Man, look at it. It's still breaking out. Dang, I just feel terrible. So I bought it. I'll tell you my mistake. I bought it really low, really good price. We came up. We had a nice 3-way pullback. I was like, okay. We had a 3-way move up, and we were starting to break down, and I'm like, it's getting too close. And then bam, I got stopped out. We dumped. I didn't enter back in, and then before you know it, it's all the way up here. So it is what it is. That's, it happens. But I was not expecting it to do that. Obviously, right? The whole market had that extra wave to the downside. But if you capitalized on it, good for you. So would I buy it now? No. I mean, obviously it could still rip to the upside, but there's no entry for me. I mean, it really, 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 really sucks. Like, I wish I had the entry here. So, I mean, it kind of looks like we're in the 5th wave. I mean, this is the most bullish chart I'm actually looking at. And I was right on the money. I was right on the money with this, right? This is look at this. There's no other chart out there, I think. I mean, this thing went up almost 90% off the low. That's massive. So I had the right idea. I just didn't have the good placement here. I should have been a little bit more patient with it. But again, the stock market had that margin call, and it was kind of a freak thing, so it is what it is. But if I were to get in this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I would let it go up. Let's see here. We would probably get stopped right around here, and then what I would like to see is some type of A, B, C way down here. That would be nice. And then I would have to wait all the way over here and then get that big 3rd wave. So if we can get that, I would consider it. But I think there's better options out there, like even XRP where it's at right now, looking pretty decent here. So all right, that'll do it. I will catch you guys on the next one. Please hit the subscribe. If you want to join the membership, you can go ahead and do so where the subscribe button is. Just click join. Help support the channel, because I don't make anything with YouTube. I barely make anything really. I don't do it for the money. I do it for basically to pay it forward. You know, a lot of people taught me how to trade on YouTube and different discords and things like that over the years. And you know, even with the stock market and things like that. So I wanted to basically pay it forward, especially when I saw Theta and, you know, a lot of coins starting to bottom out. I felt like this is a good time for me to enter in the video world. I'm not a professional YouTuber, not even close. It's just some guy giving his thoughts on the charts he sees. And so anyways, hopefully people find it helpful. This is not a trade call channel. This is just educational. This is entertainment, right? This is speculation. This is not financial advice. You got to do your own research. You got to figure it out on your own, and you got to have the conviction in what you hold. Because if you don't, then, you know, you can start making mistakes, right? So only hold the coins you know you're not going to worry about if it dumps 30%. Because, you know, I go back to the Bitcoin days back in 2012 when people, or 2010 when people were holding it, and their net worth would quadruple in like 10 minutes, right? And then like when they're asleep, their entire net worth would crash 50%, and they're like, okay, yeah, no big deal, right? Because they know what Bitcoin is, and they know it's basically a diamond, and nobody sees it as a diamond, right? They see it as a rock, right? And now people see it as a diamond. And so Bitcoin has exuberated itself. You're not going to be a millionaire with Bitcoin unless you're already rich, but you can be a millionaire with altcoins. So that's where we're geared towards, altcoins. So, all right, that's it for real this time. I will catch you on the next one. Cheers.